Who hurt you? The words cut through the diner like a knife. 200 bikers stood frozen engines, still rumbling outside as Jackson Grim Hayes stared down at the trembling blonde waitress. Her makeup couldn't hide the fresh bruise blooming across her cheekbone. The entire town of Black Ridge held its breath. Sheriff's deputies had their hands on their weapons. Customers ducked under tables. But Grim didn't move. He just waited for an answer that would change everything. Before we dive into this unbelievable true story, hit that subscribe button and stick with me until the very end. Drop a comment telling me what city you are watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Trust me, you won't believe where this goes. The coffee pot shattered against the linoleum floor at 6:47 a.m., and Claire Bennett knew she'd pay for it later. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. They hadn't stopped shaking in 3 months, not since Travis started drinking before his shift instead of after. The ceramic pieces scattered across the checkered floor of Molly's Route 9 cafe, and Claire dropped to her knees immediately, desperately trying to gather the shards before anyone noticed. Jesus Christ, Claire. She flinched at the sound of his voice. Travis Cole stood in the kitchen doorway, his manager's apron already stained with grease, even though the morning rush hadn't started. His eyes were bloodshot. She could smell the whiskey from 10 feet away. "I'm sorry," she whispered, not looking up. "I'll clean it. I'll pay for it." "Damn right you will." He walked toward her, and she instinctively pulled back. "That's coming out of your tips, again." "Travis, please. I need that money for..." "For what?" He crouched down beside her close enough that she could feel his breath on her neck. "For rent on my apartment that I let you live in? Or maybe you need it for those new clothes you keep looking at online when you think I'm not watching." Claire's throat tightened. She hadn't looked at clothes in months. She hadn't looked at anything except the bruises she covered every morning with foundation 2 shades too dark for her skin. "I wasn't..." "Don't lie to me." His hand shot out and grabbed her wrist, squeezing hard enough to make her gasp. "I'm so tired of your lies." The bell above the diner door chimed, and Travis immediately released her, standing up with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Morning, Mrs. Patterson. Be right with you." Claire gathered the last pieces of broken ceramic, her wrist already throbbing. She could feel Mrs. Patterson's eyes on her back. The whole town's eyes were always on her back, but nobody ever said anything. Nobody ever asked. That was 3 hours before the motorcycles arrived. By 9 a.m., the breakfast crowd had thinned out. Claire moved between tables like a ghost refilling coffee, forcing smiles, pretending her ribs didn't scream every time she reached for a plate. Old Bill Morrison sat in his usual corner booth, reading yesterday's newspaper because he was too cheap to buy today's. The Henderson twins argued over who got the last slice of pie. Everything was normal. Everything was always normal in Black Ridge. "Table 6 needs a refill," Travis called from behind the register. His voice had that edge to it, the one that meant she'd done something wrong even if she didn't know what yet. Claire grabbed the coffee pot and headed toward the table 6, where a lone biker sat with his back to the wall. She'd noticed him when he came in 20 minutes ago. Hard not to notice someone who looked like that. Tall, built like he'd spent years breaking things for a living, with blonde hair, pulled back, and a face that might have been handsome if it wasn't so cold. His leather vest had patches she couldn't quite read, and his hands were scarred across the knuckles. He hadn't touched his eggs. "More coffee?" Claire asked, keeping her voice steady, keeping her distance. The biker looked up at her, and something flickered across his face. His eyes, pale blue, almost gray, locked onto hers for just a second too long. Then they dropped to her wrist, where Travis's fingerprints were already turning purple against her skin. "No thanks." His voice was rough like gravel under tires. "Food's good, though." "You haven't eaten any of it." "I said it's good." He pushed a 20 across the table, even though his bill was maybe $8. "Keep the change." Claire stared at the money. $12 would replace what she'd lost from the broken coffee pot. $12 meant Travis might not be angry tonight. $12 meant maybe she could sleep without. "Take it," the biker said quietly. She took it. As she walked away, she could feel him watching her. Not the way men usually watched her, not with hunger or calculation, but with something else. Something that made her skin prickle with a feeling she couldn't name. When she glanced back from the register, he was gone. The lunch rush came and went. Claire's feet ached. Her head pounded. Travis had been in the back office for an hour, which meant he was either sleeping off the whiskey or finding new ways to track her phone. Either way, she had maybe 30 minutes of peace. You doing okay, honey? Claire jumped. She'd been staring at the wall, a dirty plate clutched in her hands. Linda, the 60-year-old cook who'd worked at Molly's longer than Claire had been alive, stood beside her with concern etched across her weathered face. I'm fine, Claire said automatically. That's what you always say. Linda's voice dropped lower. But those bruises keep getting worse. Claire's chest constricted. Linda, I know it's not my business. I know you're going to tell me to stay out of it. But sweetheart, I've seen this before. My sister, Linda's voice cracked. My sister said she was fine too, right up until she wasn't. I have to get back to work. Claire, please, Claire's voice broke on the word. Please don't. Linda's hand touched her shoulder just for a moment, and then she walked back to the kitchen. Claire stood there shaking, hating herself for being weak, hating herself for being scared, hating herself for staying. But where would she go? Travis controlled her bank account, her phone, her car. Her entire life had been carefully, methodically carved down to nothing but this diner and his apartment, and the terror of what happened when she made him angry. The bell chimed again. Claire turned, forcing her waitress smile into place, and froze. The biker from this morning stood in the doorway, but he wasn't alone. Behind him, filling the parking lot like an invading army, were motorcycles. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. The sound of their engines rolled through the desert air like thunder before a storm. What the hell? Old Bill dropped his newspaper. The Henderson twins stopped mid-argument. Every customer in the diner turned toward the windows where bikers were dismounting their rides in synchronized silence. Black leather, chrome chains, patches that read Hell's Angels in bold letters across their backs. Claire's heart stopped. Travis burst out of the back office. What's going on? He saw the bikers and went pale. Jesus Christ, someone call the sheriff. Already on it, Mrs. Patterson said, her phone pressed to her ear. But the bikers didn't storm the diner. They didn't shout or threaten or pull weapons. They just kept coming, walking through the door, one by one, two by two, filling every booth, every table, every inch of available space. Their boots thundered against the floor. Their leather creaked, and they stared. They all stared at Claire. Ma'am? The blonde biker, Grim, she'd heard one of them call him, stood directly in front of her now. Up close, he was even more terrifying. 6'4" at least, with shoulders that blocked out the sun and a scar running from his temple to his jaw. We're gonna need some coffee. Claire couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think past the overwhelming wrongness of 200 bikers sitting quietly in a diner that barely fit 50 people. I said, Grim's voice softened, we need some coffee, please. The please snapped her back. Right, coffee. I'll get coffee. She turned toward the counter and Travis grabbed her arm, the same arm he'd squeezed this morning. The same arm that was still tender and bruised and hurt so bad when he touched it that she couldn't stop the small cry that escaped her throat. Every biker in the diner stood up at once. The sound was deafening. JTD then. Chairs scraping, boots hitting floor, 200 men rising in perfect unison, their eyes locked on Travis's hand wrapped around Claire's arm. Travis let go like he'd been burned. She needed to, you didn't what? Grim's voice cut through the silence. He moved closer and Travis stumbled backward. Finish that sentence. This is my diner, my employee. You can't just, your employee. Grim looked at Claire, really looked at her, at the bruises she'd tried to hide, at the trembling she couldn't stop, at the fear that lived in her eyes like a permanent resident. That what you are, his employee. Claire opened her mouth, but no words came out. Because from where I'm standing, Grim continued, still looking at her, it looks like something else entirely. Travis found his courage somewhere in his panic. You need to leave right now, before the cops get here and arrest every single one of you for what? Another biker spoke up, older, with a gray beard and kind eyes. Ordering coffee, that illegal now. You're intimidating my customers. Your customers left 10 minutes ago, the gray-bearded biker said mildly, soon as they saw us pull up. Funny how that works. Sirens wailed in the distance, the sheriff's department responding to Mrs. Patterson's call. But the bikers didn't move. They just stood there, a wall of leather and muscle and absolute certainty, all focused on one terrified waitress who couldn't understand why any of this was happening. Grim stepped even closer to Claire, close enough that she could see the tattoo on his neck, a woman's name, Emily. Close enough that she could hear him when he spoke so quietly that only she could hear. "I'm going to ask you a question," he said, "and I need you to tell me the truth. Can you do that?" Claire nodded, not trusting her voice. "Who hurt you?" The question broke something inside her, something that had been holding together with spit and prayer and sheer stubborn will. Tears burned behind her eyes and she blinked them back furiously because crying would make Travis angry. Crying always made him angry. And if he got angry, then, "It's okay," Grim said. And somehow impossibly his voice was gentle. "You're safe now. I promise you're safe. Just tell me who hurt you." Claire's voice cracked. "I fell. I'm clumsy. I fall a lot." "That's what my sister used to say." Grim's jaw tightened. "Right up until her husband beat her to death while I was overseas." The words hit Claire like a physical blow. She looked up at him, really looked at him, and saw the truth written across his face. The guilt, the rage, the absolute determination that had driven him to bring 200 bikers to a nowhere diner in a nowhere town. "I can't," she whispered. "You don't understand. I can't just—" "Yes, you can." Grim's hand moved slowly, carefully, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. He touched her shoulder with a gentleness that seemed impossible from someone who looked like walking violence. "You can, and we're going to help you." Sheriff Bradley crashed through the door with 4 deputies, hands on their weapons. "Nobody move hands where I can see them." The bikers complied, immediately raising their hands in unison. But they didn't sit down. They didn't back away from Claire. "Sheriff," Travis said, relief flooding his voice. "Thank God. These criminals came in here threatening us, scaring our customers." "That true?" Sheriff Bradley looked at Grim. "We ordered coffee," Grim said calmly. "Still waiting on it, actually. 200 of you ordered coffee. We're a thirsty group." "This is bullshit," Travis exploded. "They're harassing my staff, intimidating." "Your staff." Sheriff Bradley's eyes landed on Claire and something shifted in his expression. "Claire, you okay?" It was the first time in 3 months anyone with authority had asked her that question. The first time anyone had looked at her like maybe, possibly, she might not be okay. "I'm fine," she said automatically. "She's lying." Grim didn't raise his voice, didn't need to. "And everyone in this town knows it." Sheriff Bradley's face hardened. "Mr. Hayes, I'm going to need you to—" "Don't." Claire's voice surprised her, surprised everyone. "Please don't. Just everyone needs to leave. Please. I'm fine. Everything's fine." "Claire," Grim started, "please." She was crying now, unable to stop the tears that had been building for months. "Just go. All of you. Please, just go." The bikers exchanged glances. Some looked angry. Others looked heartbroken. But Grim just looked determined. "All right," he said quietly. "We'll go." Relief crashed over Travis's face, over Sheriff Bradley's face, over the whole damn town that had been holding its breath. "But we're coming back," Grim continued. "Tomorrow morning, same time, and we're going to order coffee again, and the morning after that, and the morning after that, and every single day until—" He looked directly at Claire. "Until you're ready to tell the truth." "You can't," Travis started. "We can." Grim's smile was sharp as broken glass. "It's a free country. We're free to eat breakfast wherever we want. Aren't we, Sheriff?" Sheriff Bradley looked caught between a rock and a hard place. "As long as you're not breaking any laws." "We're model citizens," the gray-bearded biker said cheerfully. "We even tip well." Grim pulled out his wallet and placed $500 bills on the counter. "For the coffee we didn't get, and tomorrow's order, and the day after that." Then he walked out and every single biker followed him like a tide retreating from shore. The sound of 200 motorcycles starting up shook the diner's windows. The roar of their engines echoed across the desert as they rode away in formation, disappearing into the horizon. The silence they left behind was deafening. Claire stood in the middle of the empty diner, $500 on the counter, and Travis staring at her with an expression she'd never seen before. Fear. For the first time in 3 years, Travis Cole was afraid. And Claire didn't know if that made things better or so much worse. "What did you tell them?" Travis's voice was quiet. Too quiet, the kind of quiet that came before explosions. Nothing, I swear I didn't. Then why did they come here? Why did they look at you like that? He moved closer and Claire backed into the counter. What did you do? I didn't do anything, I don't even know them. Liar! His hand shot out and Claire ducked, expecting the hit that always came. But Sheriff Bradley cleared his throat from the doorway. Travis, one of the sheriff said carefully, maybe you should take the rest of the day off. Let Claire close up. This is my diner, and I'm suggesting you leave it for a few hours. Sheriff Bradley's hand rested on his belt near his weapon. Just a suggestion. Travis's jaw worked like he was chewing glass, but he nodded, grabbed his keys, and stormed out the back door. His truck peeled out of the parking lot 30 seconds later. Claire sagged against the counter, her legs threatening to give out. Claire. Sheriff Bradley approached slowly like she was a wild animal that might bolt. I need you to be honest with me. Has Travis been hurting you? No, Nag. Claire, no. She looked up at him, and the lie felt like acid in her throat. He hasn't. I'm just clumsy. I fall a lot. Sheriff Bradley stared at her for a long moment. Then he sighed deep and tired. All right, but if you ever need help, I won't. He left. The diner was empty. Claire was alone with $500 in the memory of 200 bikers who'd seen what everyone else pretended not to notice. She picked up the money with shaking hands and counted it 3 times, making sure it was real. Then she shoved it in her apron pocket and started cleaning, because cleaning was safe. Cleaning was normal. Cleaning meant she didn't have to think about the way Grim had looked at her when he asked who hurt you. She didn't have to think about how badly she'd wanted to tell him the truth. That night, Travis didn't come home until after midnight. Claire pretended to be asleep when she heard his truck in the driveway, curling up on her side of the bed, making herself as small as possible. He stood in the doorway for a long time, just watching her. She could feel his eyes on her back. I know you're awake, he said finally. Claire didn't move. Those bikers come back tomorrow. You tell them to leave. You tell them you're fine. You tell them whatever they think is happening isn't happening. Understand? She nodded against the pillow. Say it. I understand. Good. He walked to his side of the bed and she could smell the whiskey rolling off him in waves. Because if you embarrass me in front of this whole town again, I will make you regret it. I will make you wish those bikers had never showed up. Do you understand that too? Yes. He got into bed and Claire squeezed her eyes shut, willing herself to disappear, to evaporate, to become nothing at all. But in her apron pocket, downstairs in the kitchen, $500 sat like a promise. And somewhere out in the desert, 200 motorcycles were parked in a circle while Jackson, Grim Hayes, stood in the center, his phone pressed to his ear. I need lawyers, he said, good ones, and safe houses, and anyone who's willing to testify about domestic violence in Black Ridge, Arizona. He paused, listening. Yeah, I know it's a lot, but we're not leaving until she's safe. Another pause. Because I let my sister die, and I'm not letting another one go. He hung up and looked at his brother's men who'd followed him into hell more times than he could count. Tomorrow we go back, he said, and every day after that, until she trusts us enough to let us help. What if she never does? Someone asked. Grim's expression hardened. Then we stay until he slips up, until he hurts her in front of witnesses, until we have enough evidence to bury him. His hands clenched into fists. One way or another, this ends. I don't care how long it takes. The men nodded. They'd followed Grim through worse. They'd follow him through this. Back in Black Ridge, Claire lay awake until dawn, thinking about a question she'd been asked for the first time in 3 years. Who hurt you? And wondering if maybe possibly she might finally be brave enough to answer it. The sun wasn't even up when Claire heard the motorcycles again. She was standing at the diner's coffee machine, her hands still trembling from the fight she'd had with Travis an hour earlier. He'd found the $500, torn apart her apron, looking for it, screaming about how she was hiding things from him, how she was planning to leave. How dare she? How dare she? How dare she? She'd given him the money. All of it. Watched him shove it in his wallet while calling her every name he could think of. Now the rumble of engines rolled across the desert like an earthquake, and Claire knew her life was about to get so much worse. They're back, Linda said from the kitchen window. Her voice carried something Claire couldn't identify. Not fear, something else. Lord have mercy, they actually came back. Claire's stomach twisted. Lock the door. What? Lock the door. Tell them we're closed. Linda turned from the window and her eyes were wet. Honey, we can't keep running from people who are trying to help. They're not trying to help. They're making everything worse. Are they? Linda walked over Flower, still dusting her apron. Or are they making it impossible for everyone to keep pretending? The first motorcycle pulled into the parking lot, then another, then 20 more. The sound was deafening even through the walls. Travis bursted through the back door, his face already red. I told you to handle this. I told you to make them leave. I can't control what they do. Then tell them you don't need their help. Tell them to get the hell out of my town. Your town. The words slipped out before Claire could stop them. Travis's hand moved fast, catching her across the face hard enough to snap her head sideways. She tasted blood. The world tilted, and the diner door exploded open. Grim stood in the doorway, and the look on his face would haunt Claire for the rest of her life. Behind him, bikers flooded into the diner like water through a broken dam. They didn't run, didn't shout, just moved with terrifying purpose toward Travis, who'd gone sheet white. Don't, Claire gasped, stepping between them and Travis, even though her cheek was on fire and her vision was blurred. Please don't. Grim stopped, 2 feet away. His chest was heaving. His fists were clenched, so tight his knuckles had gone bloodless. He just hit you. It was an accident. An accident. Grim's voice was deadly quiet. Say that again. Say it was an accident and watch me not believe a single word. Travis found his courage somewhere in his terror. You saw her mouth off to me. She was being disrespectful in my own establishment. Your establishment. The gray-bearded biker from yesterday pushed through the crowd. That's interesting, because I did some digging last night. This diner belongs to Molly Henderson. Has for 43 years. You just manage it. Travis's face went from white to red. That's none of your business. And neither is she. Grim pointed at Claire without taking his eyes off Travis. But here's the thing. We're making it our business anyway. You can't... Can't what? Another biker spoke up, younger, with tattoos covering his arms. Can't eat breakfast in a public establishment. Can't notice when a woman's being abused. Can't give a damn about someone who needs help. I want you out. Travis's voice shook. All of you, now. Or what? Grim stepped closer. You'll call the sheriff. Go ahead, call him. Let's see what he thinks about that mark on Claire's face that wasn't there 5 minutes ago. Claire's hand flew to her cheek. It was already swelling. She could feel it. That was, Travis started. An accident. Grim finished. Right, just like all the other accidents. The bruises on her arms, the split lip last month, the way she flinches every time someone moves too fast. His voice dropped lower. You think we're stupid? You think we don't recognize the signs? You don't know anything about us. I know men like you. Grim moved even closer and Travis stumbled backward into a table. I know exactly what you are. My sister married one just like you. Charming at first, then controlling, then violent, then dead. The word hung in the air like smoke. Grim, the gray-bearded biker said quietly. Easy. But Grim wasn't done. She told everyone she was fine too. Said she fell. Said she was clumsy. Said all the same things Claire's saying right now. And I believed her because I wanted to believe her because it was easier than dealing with the truth. His voice cracked. I was in Afghanistan when she died. Her husband beat her so bad the coroner couldn't identify her face. And I wasn't there. I didn't protect her. I didn't save her. Claire's throat closed up. She couldn't breathe. So yeah, Grim continued, I'm making this my business because I'm not letting another woman die while everyone looks the other way. Travis opened his mouth, but Sheriff Bradley walked through the door before he could speak. All right, the sheriff said, surveying the scene. What's going on here? He hit her, Grim said immediately. 5 minutes ago, we all saw it through the window. Sheriff Bradley's eyes found Claire's face. The bruise was already darkening, impossible to miss. That true Claire. Every eye in the diner turned to her. Travis's stare bore into her like a drill. The bikers watched with barely contained rage. Linda gripped the counter so hard her knuckles were white. Claire's voice failed. Tell him, Grim said softly. Please, just tell him the truth. Travis didn't mean to, Claire heard herself say. I moved too fast. His hand it was an accident. Jesus Christ, someone muttered. Sheriff Bradley rubbed his face. Travis, I need you to come with me. What? Why, she just said it was an accident. And I need to file a report anyway. Standard procedure when there's an allegation of assault. There's no allegation. She said it was an accident. And yet here I am filing a report. Sheriff Bradley's hand moved to his belt. We can do this easy or hard. Your choice. Travis's face twisted with fury, but he nodded. As he walked past Claire, he leaned in close enough that only she could hear. You're going to regret this. Then he was gone, and Claire was alone with 200 bikers in a secret she'd kept for 3 years that was unraveling faster than she could hold it together. Ma'am? A woman pushed through the crowd of bikers, mid-40s with kind eyes and a scar running down her neck. My name's Rebecca. I run a women's shelter 2 hours from here. Claire shook her head. I don't need, just listen, please. Rebecca's voice was gentle but firm. You don't have to decide anything right now, but I need you to know you have options. We have beds, we have lawyers, we have therapists, we have women who have been exactly where you are. I don't need a shelter. Okay. Rebecca pulled out a card and placed it on the counter. But if you change your mind, we're open 24 hours, no questions asked, no judgment. He's going to be so angry, Claire whispered. I know. You don't understand. When he gets angry, I do understand. Rebecca pulled down her collar, revealing the scar on her neck more clearly. My husband did this with a broken bottle, told me if I ever left, he'd finish the job. She paused. That was 8 years ago. I left anyway, and I'm still here. Claire stared at the scar, at Rebecca's calm expression, at the proof that survival was possible. I can't, she said finally. Not today, maybe. Rebecca squeezed her hand, but someday. The bikers started filling the tables again, and Claire moved through them in a daze, pouring coffee she didn't remember making, taking orders she didn't remember hearing. They were polite, quiet, nothing like the monsters the town had expected. Pancakes, one biker said, and bacon, extra crispy. Same, said another. You got any of that pie left from yesterday? Claire nodded, wrote it down, moved to the next table. Her face throbbed. Her hands shook. The world felt like it was happening to someone else. Grim sat in the corner booth watching her with those pale gray eyes that saw too much. When she brought his coffee, he spoke quietly. You don't owe him anything. You don't know what you're talking about. I know more than you think. He wrapped his hands around the mug. I know he's got you convinced you can't survive without him, that nobody else would want you, that if you leave, he'll find you, that it's somehow your fault when he hurts you. Claire's chest tightened. Stop. I know because that's what Emily's husband told her every single day until she believed it. Grim looked up. Until it killed her. I'm not your sister. No, you're not, but you're somebody's sister, somebody's daughter, somebody who deserves better than this. You don't know what I deserve. I know you don't deserve to be hit. His voice hardened. Nobody does. Claire walked away before he could see her cry. The breakfast rush lasted until noon. The bikers ate slowly ordered refills, left tips that were 5 times what the meals cost. By the time they finally left, Claire had made more in tips than she usually made in a week. Tomorrow, Grim said at the door. Same time? Please don't. Can't help it. We really like the coffee here. Then they were gone and Claire was alone with Linda in the empty diner. You okay? Linda asked. No. Good. That's the first honest thing you've said in months. Claire started crying. Great gasping sobs that she'd been holding back since Travis first raised his hand to her a year ago. Linda wrapped her arms around her and held on tight while Claire fell apart. I don't know what to do, Claire choked out. I don't know how to leave. I don't know how to stay. I don't know anything anymore. Then let them help you figure it out. I'm scared. I know, baby, I know. Linda stroked her hair. But you can't keep living like this. You know you can't. Travis came back at 3 p.m., his face thunderous. Sheriff said I can't be here when you're working. Claire's heart stopped. What? Restraining order. Temporary because of what those bikers said. His voice was tight with fury. So you get what you wanted. You humiliated me in front of the whole town. I don't. He held up a hand. Just don't. I'm going to the apartment. You better be there by 6. And when you get there, we're going to have a long talk about loyalty. He left. Claire stood, frozen terror flooding every cell in her body. You're not going, Linda said. I have to. You absolutely do not have to. You don't understand. If I don't show up, then what? He'll be angry. Claire, he's already angry. He's always going to be angry. The only question is whether you're going to keep letting him use that anger to control you. Claire's phone buzzed. A text from Travis. 6 p.m. Don't be late, or else. Her hands were shaking so hard she almost dropped the phone. Call that woman, Linda said. Rebecca, call her right now. I can't. Yes, you can. You don't know what he'll do. I know what he'll do if you stay. Linda's voice broke. My sister stayed, and I had to identify her bun. Please, Claire, please don't make me do that again. Claire stared at the card Rebecca had left. The number seemed to blur and refocus. What if it's worse, she whispered. What if leaving makes everything worse? What if it makes everything better? Claire's finger hovered over her phone. One call, that's all it would take. One call and everything would change. She couldn't do it. She put the card in her pocket, instead finished her shift, and drove to Travis's apartment with her heart in her throat. He was waiting in the living room, a bottle of whiskey on the coffee table, half empty. You're late, he said. It was 5:47. I said 6. That means you should have been here at 5:30 to make sure you weren't late. He stood up, swaying slightly. But you don't think about things like that, do you? You don't think about how your actions affect me. Travis, I'm sorry. You're sorry. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You embarrassed me. You had those bikers come to my workplace. You turned the sheriff against me. You made the whole town think I'm some kind of monster. I didn't do any of that. Then why are they here? Why do they keep showing up? He moved closer. What did you tell them? Nothing. Liar. His hand shot out and grabbed her throat. Claire clawed at his fingers, gasping for air, and for one terrible moment she thought, this is it. This is how I die, and somewhere in the back of her oxygen-starved brain, she wondered if Grim would blame himself for this too. Then Travis let go, shoving her backward into the wall. Pack your things, he said. Claire coughed, her throat on fire. What? We're leaving tonight. We're going to move somewhere those bikers can't find us. Somewhere you can't embarrass me anymore. I can't. I have work. You think I care about your work? He grabbed her face, forcing her to look at him. You're mine, Claire. Mine. And I'm not letting anyone take you away from me. His fingers dug into her bruised cheek and Claire screamed. Travis's phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again and again. What? He snarled into the phone. Claire couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she saw Travis's expression change from anger to confusion to fear. What do you mean they're outside? He walked to the window and went absolutely still. Jesus Christ. Claire stumbled to the window and looked down. The parking lot was full of motorcycles, dozens of them. The bikers stood in formation, arms crossed, faces hard. And at the front stood Grim, looking up at their third-floor apartment with an expression that promised violence. How did they? Travis started. Claire's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. We know you're in there. We know you're scared. When you're ready to leave, we'll be right here. They followed you, Travis said. You led them here. I didn't. Get away from the window. He yanked her back. We're calling the cops. But when he dialed 911, the operator's voice was calm and unhelpful. Sir, unless they are breaking the law, there's nothing we can do. They have a right to be in a public parking lot. They're stalking my girlfriend. Has anyone threatened you? They don't have to threaten me. Look at it. I am. Sir, I'm going to need you to calm down. Travis threw his phone across the room. It shattered against the wall. They stayed in the apartment for 6 hours. Travis paced and drank and raged while Claire sat on the couch, her phone clutched in her hands, reading and rereading that text. When you're ready to leave, we'll be right here. At midnight, Travis finally passed out on the bed, the whiskey bottle empty beside him. Claire stood at the window, looking down at the bikers who were still there, still waiting. Grim sat on his motorcycle, patient as stone. Her phone buzzed again. You don't have to be afraid. We won't let him hurt you anymore. Claire's finger hovered over the reply button. Then she typed 3 words. I'm not ready. The response came immediately. That's okay. We'll wait. And they did. All night long, while Travis snored and Claire sat awake trapped between the man who'd destroyed her and the strangers who'd promised to save her. When dawn broke, the motorcycles were still there, and Claire knew that everything was about to change whether she was ready or not. Travis woke up at 7 a.m. and immediately went to the window. The bikers were still there. "Sons of bitches," he muttered, then turned to Claire. "Get ready for work." Claire stared at him. "What?" "You heard me. Get ready. You're going to work. You're going to tell them to leave. You're going to end this circus." Travis, now Claire. She got dressed with fingers that wouldn't stop shaking, put on makeup that couldn't hide the bruises anymore, walked down 3 flights of stairs knowing that everything was about to explode. The moment she stepped outside, Grim was there. "Morning," he said quietly. Travis grabbed her arm. "She doesn't want to talk to you." "I was asking her, not you. I'm her fiancé. You talk to me." Grim's eyes dropped to where Travis's hand gripped Claire's arm. "Let her go." "Or what?" "Or I'll make you." Travis's face went purple. "You threatening me in front of all these witnesses?" "Not a threat, a promise." Grim took a step closer. "You got 3 seconds to let her go." "She's my one. You can't, too." Travis released Claire's arm and shoved her towards his truck. "Get in." But Claire didn't move. She stood there frozen between the 2 men, her mind screaming at her to do something, say something, be something other than this terrified statue. "Claire," Grim said softly, "you don't have to go with him." "Yes, she does," Travis snapped. "She works for me. She lives with me. She's mine." "She's not property. Mind your own damn business." "I told you, she is my business now." Travis lunged at Grim, and everything happened so fast Claire barely processed it. Grim sidestepped, caught Travis's arm, and had him face down on the pavement in under 3 seconds. No punches thrown, no excessive force, just clean, brutal efficiency. "Don't," Grim said, his knee tearing on Travis's back. "Don't give me a reason." Travis thrashed. "Get off me. Someone call the cops." "Already here," Sheriff Bradley said, walking up with 2 deputies. "Mr. Hayes, you need to calm down. He attacked me." "I saw you lunge at him first," the sheriff said mildly. "Mr. Hayes here responded with appropriate defensive force." "Appropriate, he assaulted me. He restrained you." Sheriff Bradley nodded at Grim, who released Travis and stepped back. "Now I'm going to suggest you go cool off somewhere. Maybe visit your mother in Phoenix for a few days." Travis stood up, his face contorted with rage. "You're all in on this, the whole town. You're trying to take her from me." "Nobody's taking anyone from anyone," the sheriff said. "But that restraining order says you can't be within 100 feet of the diner while Claire's working. So unless you want to get arrested, I suggest you leave." "Claire," Travis said, his voice suddenly soft, pleading. Tell them this is all a misunderstanding." Claire opened her mouth. Nothing came out. "Claire, please. I love you. You know I love you. I'd never hurt you on purpose." And there it was. The same words he'd said 100 times before. The same apology that always came after the violence. The same promise that things would be different, better, if she just gave him one more chance. "I know," she whispered. "Then tell them to leave us alone." Claire looked at the bikers standing in formation. At Rebecca, who'd driven 2 hours to be here. At Grim, whose sister had died because nobody helped her. "I can't," she heard herself say. Travis' expression crumbled. "What? I can't do this anymore." "You don't mean that." "I do." Her voice was shaking but getting stronger. "I can't. I'm tired, Travis. I'm so tired." "Baby, listen to me." "No." The word came out louder than she expected. "No, I'm done listening. I'm done pretending. I'm done being afraid." Travis's face shifted from pleading to fury in a heartbeat. "You ungrateful bitch. After everything I've done for you, done for me." Claire's voice broke. "You've beaten me, controlled me, isolated me from everyone who cared about me. That's what you've done for me. I gave you a home. You gave me a prison. I loved you. You destroyed me." Claire was crying now, but she couldn't stop. "You made me afraid to breathe wrong, afraid to look at people, afraid to exist. That's not love. That's not even close to love." Travis moved toward her, and 20 bikers moved at the same time, forming a wall between them. You're making a mistake, Travis said, his voice shaking. You think these people care about you? They don't even know you. They'll get bored and leave, and then where will you be? Anywhere but with you. The words hung in the desert air like a verdict. Travis stared at her for a long moment and something died in his eyes. Fine, have it your way. But you're not taking anything from the apartment. No clothes, no money, nothing. You want to leave with what you came with. That's fine. And good luck finding another job in this town. I'll make sure nobody hires you. Travis, Sheriff Bradley warned, what I can't tell the truth now, she's unstable, unreliable. Everyone will know what she really is. And what's that? Grim asked quietly. A liar, a manipulator, someone who cries abuse the second she doesn't get her way. Rebecca stepped forward. I've heard that before. From my ex-husband, right before I left him. She looked at Claire. And you know what? He was wrong. Just like Travis is wrong. You don't know anything about us, Travis spat. I know enough. Rebecca handed Claire a card, different from the first one. This is my personal cell. Call me anytime, day or night. Claire took it with trembling hands. Travis laughed, but it sounded broken. This is insane, all of this. Over what a few bruises, everyone fights. Everyone has bad days. Bad days don't put people in the hospital, Grim said. She's never been in the hospital. Only because she was too afraid to go. Grim's voice was hard as stone. Just like my sister. Right up until the day she died. Travis's face went pale. I would never. Not yet, maybe, Grim said. But eventually, it always gets worse. Always. Sheriff Bradley put his hand on Travis's shoulder. Come on, let's get you out of here before this escalates. I'm not going anywhere without Claire. Yes, you are. The sheriff's voice left no room for argument. Right now, or I'm arresting you for violating the restraining order. Travis looked at Claire one last time. You'll regret this. When you're alone and broke and nobody wants you, you'll remember that I was the only one who ever loved you. Then the deputies were walking him to his truck, and Claire was watching the man who'd controlled her life for 3 years drive away. She waited for relief. Instead, terror crashed over her in waves. I don't have anywhere to go, she said to no one in particular. Yes, you do, Rebecca said immediately. The shelter. I have a bed ready. I don't have any money. I can't pay. It's free. That's the point. I don't even have clothes. We have clothes, toiletries, everything you need. Claire's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the pavement, her head in her hands, trying to breathe through the panic attack that was crushing her chest. Grim crouched down beside him. Hey, look at me. She couldn't. Claire, look at me. She forced her eyes up. His expression was gentle, nothing like the cold mask he'd worn when dealing with Travis. You did the hardest part, he said. You left. Everything else is just logistics. What if I made a mistake? You didn't. You don't know that. Yeah, I do. He stood up and offered her his hand. Come on, let's get you somewhere safe. Claire stared at his hand for a long moment, calloused, scarred, belonging to a man who'd terrified her 48 hours ago. She took it. Rebecca drove her to the shelter in a minivan that smelled like coffee and hope. Claire sat in the passenger seat watching Black Ridge disappear in the rearview mirror, waiting to feel something other than numb. You're going to be okay, Rebecca said. Everyone keeps saying that. Because it's true. How do you know? Because I've seen hundreds of women walk through those doors, and I've watched them rebuild their lives into something beautiful. Rebecca glanced at her. You're not the first woman to leave, you won't be the last, but you will survive this. The shelter was a converted hotel on the outskirts of a town Claire had never heard of. Armed security at the gate, cameras everywhere, women and children moving through the halls with quiet determination. We have rules, Rebecca explained as they walked inside. No men allowed past the lobby, no sharing your location with anyone outside, no contact with your abuser under any circumstances. Can you follow those rules? Claire nodded. Good, let me show you your room. It was small, clean, a bed, a dresser, a window with bars on it. Claire sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. I know it's not much, Rebecca said. It's perfect. There's a group session at 2 p.m. You don't have to go, but I recommend it, and we have a therapist who can see you tomorrow if you want. Okay, Rebecca hesitated in the doorway. You did the right thing. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you did. Then she was gone, and Claire was alone for the first time in 3 years, without the fear of Travis walking through the door. She cried until she threw up. Then she slept for 14 hours straight. When she woke up, her phone had 63 missed calls from Travis and a text from Grim. How are you holding up? She stared at the message for 10 minutes before responding. I don't know. That's honest. Honest is good. Is it? Better than pretending. Claire set her phone down and walked to the common room, where a dozen women were gathered around a TV. The news was on. A reporter stood outside Molly's Route 9 cafe interviewing Sheriff Bradley. Unprecedented show of support from the motorcycle club, the reporter was saying. Sheriff, what's your response to claims that the Hells Angels intimidated local business owner Travis Cole? From what I witnessed, Sheriff Bradley said carefully, the bikers were peaceful. They ordered food, paid for it, left generous tips. Nothing illegal about that. But there are reports of confrontations. There was one incident where Mr. Cole became physical with a member of the motorcycle club. That member defended himself using appropriate force. No charges were filed. The screen cut to footage of the bikers sitting in the diner, quietly eating breakfast. They looked almost normal, almost harmless. This is being called the Black Ridge Miracle, the reporter continued. A story of strangers coming together to help someone in need. What do you say to people who claim this is just a publicity stunt? Sheriff Bradley's expression hardened. I'd say they weren't there. They didn't see what I saw. And they don't understand what it means when a whole community finally decides to stop looking the other way. The women in the shelter erupted in applause. That's the sheriff, a young woman asked Claire. Yeah. He seems like he actually gives a damn. He does. Claire was surprised to find she meant it. I think he always did. He just didn't know how to help. None of them do, an older woman said, until someone forces them to pay attention. Claire's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered carefully. Claire Bennett, a woman's voice professional form. Yes. My name is Sarah Martinez. I'm an attorney with the Domestic Violence Legal Aid Project. Rebecca asked me to call you. Claire's heart started pounding. I can't afford a lawyer. You don't have to. We work pro bono. I'd like to help you file for a permanent restraining order against Travis Cole. Would you be interested in that? Yes. Good. Can you come to my office tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Rebecca can bring you. Okay. And Claire, you should know that 3 other women have come forward in the past 24 hours with allegations against Travis. You're not alone in this. Claire almost dropped the phone. 3. And I expect there will be more. Men like Travis don't usually have just one victim. After she hung up, Claire sat very still processing this information. 3 other women, 3 other lives Travis had damaged, and none of them had spoken up until now, until the bikers made it impossible to ignore. That afternoon, she attended the group session, 12 women in a circle sharing stories that sounded horrifyingly familiar. Different details, same pattern, charm turning to control, turning to violence, turning to isolation. I stayed for 6 years, one woman said. Kept thinking if I just loved him enough, he'd change. Mine kept promising to get help, another added. Went to therapy twice and said he was cured. I left 4 times, a third woman said quietly. He found me every time, convinced me to come back, told me he'd changed. What made you leave the 5th night, someone asked. The woman's eyes filled with tears. My daughter asked me if it was normal for daddies to hurt mommies. She was 5 years old. And I realized I was teaching her that this was love. Claire spoke before she could stop herself. I don't have children. I don't have family nearby. I don't even have a good reason for staying as long as I did. You stayed because he made you believe you couldn't leave, the group leader said gently. That's reason enough. But I could have, at any point I could have just walked out. Could you, the leader leaned forward. Did you have access to money? No, he controlled all our accounts. Transportation. He had the keys to my car. Friends for me. He said they didn't really care about me, that I was bothering them, so I stopped calling. So you had no money, no car, no support system, and a partner who'd proven he was willing to hurt you. Tell me again how you could have just walked out. Claire started crying. I should have been stronger. You survived, the leader said. That took more strength than you know. The session lasted 2 hours. When it ended, Claire felt wrung out and raw, but somehow lighter. Rebecca found her in the hallway afterward. How was it? Hard. Good. The hard stuff means you're healing. Does it get easier? Eventually, not today, probably not tomorrow, but eventually. Rebecca handed her a folder. I pulled together some resources for you, job training programs, educational grants, housing assistance. You don't have to look at it now, but it's here when you're ready. Claire took the folder with shaking hands. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. Because someone did it for me 8 years ago, and now I'm paying it forward. That night, Claire lay in bed and scrolled through her phone. The story had gone viral. News outlets across the country were covering it. The comments section was a war zone of people arguing about whether the bikers were heroes or vigilantes, whether Claire was brave or weak, whether Travis was a monster or just misunderstood. One comment stopped her cold. My husband beat me for 12 years. Nobody helped. Nobody cared. I finally left when he put me in the hospital. I wish I'd had 200 bikers show up for me. This woman is so lucky. Lucky. Claire had never felt less lucky in her life, but she was alive and safe. And for the first time in 3 years, she could breathe without permission. Her phone buzzed. Grim again. Saw the news. How are you handling it? Everyone's talking about me. Let them talk. You're safe. That's what matters. Why did you do this? Really, Bashem? The response took a while to come. Because I couldn't save Emily, but I could save you. And maybe that makes me selfish, but I don't care. Claire stared at the message for a long time. Thank you, she typed finally. I don't know how to repay you. You don't have to repay me. Just live. Build a good life. Be happy. That's payment enough. She fell asleep holding her phone, and for the first time in years, she didn't have nightmares. The next morning, Sarah Martinez was everything Rebecca had promised. Sharp, compassionate, and absolutely ruthless when it came to protecting her clients. I've reviewed Travis's history, Sarah said, spreading files across her desk. He has 2 prior domestic violence arrests. Both charges were dropped when the victims refused to testify. Claire's stomach churned. I didn't know that. Most abusers have a pattern. Travis is no exception. Sarah pulled out another file. I've also been contacted by his previous employer. Apparently, he was fired for inappropriate behavior toward female staff members. What kind of inappropriate behavior? Unwanted touching, verbal harassment, creating a hostile work environment. Sarah looked at Claire. You're not the first woman he's hurt, but if you're willing to testify, you could be the last. What would I have to do? File a police report detailing the abuse. Testify in court if it goes to trial. Be prepared for him to fight back. Men like Travis don't give up easily. Claire thought about the 3 other women who'd come forward, about Sarah's sister who didn't make it out, about all the future victims who could be prevented if she just found the courage to speak. I'll do it, she said. Are you sure this won't be easy? Nothing about this has been easy. Claire met Sarah's eyes. But I'm tired of him getting away with it. Sarah smiled. Then let's bury him. The police report took 3 hours to file. Claire recounted every incident she could remember, and Officer Martinez, no relation to Sarah, apparently wrote it all down with an expression that grew grimmer by the minute. Did you ever seek medical attention? She asked. No, he wouldn't let me. Did anyone witness the abuse? Linda, the cook at the diner. She saw the bruises. Anyone else? Claire thought about the whole town that had looked the other way. Everyone and no one. Officer Martinez nodded like she understood. We'll need photographs of your injuries, and we'll want to interview the other women who've come forward. How many are there now? 5 and counting. 5 women, 5 lives damaged by one man who'd been allowed to operate unchecked for years. Why didn't anyone stop him before? Claire asked. Because nobody wanted to get involved. Because the victims were too scared to speak up. Because the system failed. Officer Martinez's voice was hard. But it's not failing now. We're building a case that will put him away for a long time. When Claire left the police station, Grim was waiting outside on his motorcycle. Figured you might need a ride back to the shelter, he said. Rebecca's supposed to pick me up. She got called away. Emergency with another client. Asked me to cover. Claire hesitated. She'd been alone with Travis 1,000 times and been terrified every second. But standing here with Grim, this huge scarred biker who'd crashed into her life like a wrecking ball, she felt nothing but safe. Okay, she said. She climbed onto the back of his motorcycle, wrapped her arms around his waist, and tried not to think about how strange it was that a stranger felt safer than the man she'd almost married. They rode in silence through the desert, and for 20 perfect minutes, Claire let herself pretend she was someone who rode motorcycles with dangerous men and didn't have to be afraid of anything. When they pulled up to the shelter, Grim killed the engine and turned to look at her. "You're going to be okay," he said. "Everyone keeps telling me that. Because it's true." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I've seen broken things heal before, including myself." He paused. "After Emily died, I didn't think I'd ever feel anything but guilty and angry. But I rebuilt, slowly, and you will too." "What if I don't?" "Then we'll be here to help you, for as long as it takes." Claire's eyes burned with tears. "I don't understand why you care so much." Grim was quiet for a long moment. "My sister used to say that the world was divided into people who helped and people who looked away. She died because too many people looked away." His voice roughened. "I'm not looking away anymore. None of us are." Claire climbed off the motorcycle, her legs shaking. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning." And as she walked into the shelter, watching Grim ride away in her rear view, Claire realized he was right. This was just the beginning. 3 days later, Travis showed up at the diner. Linda called Claire immediately. "He's here, drunk, demanding to know where you are." Claire's hands went numb. "Did you call the police?" "They're on their way. But honey, he's tearing the place apart. Says he won't leave until someone tells him how to find you." "I'm coming." "No, Claire, no. That's exactly what he wants." But Claire was already grabbing her jacket. Rebecca tried to stop her at the door, but Claire pushed past her. "He's destroying Linda's livelihood because of me. I have to fix this." "You don't have to do anything," Rebecca said. "That's the restraining order's job." "The restraining order is a piece of paper. Travis is flesh and blood and rage, and he's hurting people I care about." Grim's motorcycle was parked outside the shelter. He was always there now, like a guardian who never slept. Claire didn't know if it was comforting or terrifying. "Need a ride?" he asked, reading her expression. "To the diner." "Travis is there." Grim's entire body went rigid. "Absolutely not. He's hurting Linda, breaking things. You have to stay here where it's safe." Grim pulled out his phone. "I'll handle it. He's not your problem." "Yeah, he is." Grim was already texting. "Give me 10 minutes." "I don't have 10 minutes." "Then make them." He looked at her, and his expression was harder than she'd ever seen it. "You walk into that diner right now, you're giving him exactly what he wants. Control, power, the ability to manipulate you through fear. So I just let him destroy everything." "No, you let us destroy him." Grim's phone buzzed with the responses. "My brothers are already on their way. This ends today." Claire wanted to argue, but the certainty in his voice stopped her. "What are you going to do?" "What we should have done from the beginning." He climbed onto his motorcycle. "Stay here. I mean it, Claire. Do not leave this building." Then he was gone, and Claire was left standing in the parking lot with her heart hammering against her ribs. Rebecca appeared beside her. "He's right, you know. I can't just hide while other people fight my battles." "Why not? You've been fighting alone for 3 years. Maybe it's time to let someone help." Claire's phone rang, unknown number. She answered without thinking. "Claire," Travis's voice was slurred, desperate. "Baby, I know you can hear me. I know Linda called you." "How did you get this number?" "Doesn't matter. What matters is you need to come home right now. Before I do something we'll both regret." Claire's blood turned to ice. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm done playing games. I'm done with lawyers and restraining orders and those goddamn bikers thinking they can take what's mine." His voice rose. "You're mine, Claire. You've always been mine. And if I can't have you, nobody can." The line went dead. Claire's hands were shaking so hard she dropped the phone. Rebecca picked it up, listened to something, and her face went white. "He's still on the line," she whispered. "He didn't hang up. He's letting us hear." They could hear Travis in the background screaming at Linda, the sound of breaking glass, a crash that might have been a table, then Linda's voice sharp with fear. "Travis, put that down. Please." Tell me where she is. I don't know. Liar. Another crash. Everyone in this whole damn town is lying to me, protecting her like she's some kind of victim when she's the one who destroyed everything. Claire grabbed the phone from Rebecca. Travis, stop. I'm coming. Just stop. Claire, no, Rebecca said, but Claire was already running to her car. She made it 3 steps before Grimm's motorcycle roared into the parking lot, followed by 50 more. The bikers formed a wall between Claire and her car, and Grimm climbed off his bike with murder in his eyes. Did he threaten you? Grimm asked. He's threatening Linda. And you were just going to walk right into that, let him use you as a hostage. I have to do something. You are doing something. You're staying alive. Grimm pulled out his phone and played a recording. Travis's voice came through clear as day, threatening Linda, admitting he'd hurt Claire, confessing to things that would put him away for years. How did you? Claire started. Linda's wearing a wire, so is everyone else in that diner. Every word he's saying is being recorded and transmitted directly to the sheriff's department. Grimm's smile was sharp. We've been planning this since the first day we showed up. Claire's mind reeled. You set this up. We gave him enough rope to hang himself. All we had to do was wait for him to use it. Sirens wailed in the distance. Multiple cars converging on the diner from every direction. The bikers mounted their motorcycles in perfect synchronization, and Grimm gestured for Claire to get on behind him. You wanted to help, he said. Then come watch us end this. They arrived at the diner to find it surrounded by police. Travis stood in the doorway, a broken bottle in one hand, Linda backing away from him with her hands up. Don't come any closer, Travis shouted at the deputies. I'll hurt her. I swear to God, I'll hurt her. Travis Cole, Sheriff Bradley's voice boomed through a megaphone. Put down the bottle and come out with your hands up. Not until someone tells me where Claire is. I'm right here, Claire said, stepping off Grimm's motorcycle. Every head turned. Travis's face lit up with desperate hope. Claire, baby, thank God. Tell them this is all a misunderstanding. Tell them we can work this out. Claire walked toward him slowly, and Grimm's hand shot out to stop her. She shook her head. Trust me. She moved past the police line, past the bikers, until she was 20 feet from Travis and his broken bottle and his pathetic desperation. You want to know where I've been? She asked. Yes. God, yes. I've been going crazy. I've been safe. For the first time in 3 years, I've been safe. Travis's expression crumbled. What are you talking about? You were always safe with me. I was terrified with you. Claire's voice didn't shake. Every single day, wondering when you'd hit me next, what would set you off, how bad it would be this time. I never meant to hurt you. But you did, over and over, and you knew exactly what you were doing. That's not true. I love you. No, you don't. Claire felt something break free inside her chest. You love controlling me. You love having someone to blame for everything wrong in your life. But you never loved me. Travis's hand tightened around the bottle. Take it back. No, take it back right now, or I swear. Or what? You'll hurt Linda. You'll hurt me. You'll destroy everything like you always do. Claire took another step forward. Go ahead. Do it in front of all these witnesses. Let everyone see what you really are. Claire, Sheriff Bradley warned, step back. But Claire didn't move, so, you wanted me to come, I'm here. You wanted to talk, I'm listening. But I'm not afraid of you anymore, Travis. And without my fear, you're nothing. Travis's face twisted with rage. He raised the bottle and Linda screamed, and every gun in the parking lot trained on him at once. Don't, Grimm said quietly from behind Claire. Give us a reason, please. Travis froze the bottle held high, his eyes wild. For one terrible moment, Claire thought he'd actually do it, thought he'd hurt someone just to prove he still had power. Then his hand dropped, the bottle shattered on the ground, and Travis collapsed against the doorframe sobbing. I loved you, he choked out. I gave you everything. You gave me bruises and fear in 3 years I'll never get back. Claire's voice was steady. But I'm taking my life back now, and you can't stop me. The deputies moved in handcuffs, ready. Travis didn't resist, didn't fight, just let them pull his arms behind his back while he stared at Claire with something that might have been heartbreak if he was capable of feeling anything beyond his own rage. You'll regret this, he said as they led him to the patrol car. When you're alone and no one wants you, you'll remember that I was the only one who ever No, Claire interrupted. You were the only one who ever made me believe I was worthless. But I'm starting to think you were wrong. They pushed him into the car. The door slammed, and Claire watched him drive away, wondering why she didn't feel relief yet. Linda burst out of the diner and wrapped Claire in a hug so tight it hurt. You stupid, brave, reckless girl. Don't you ever scare me like that again. I'm sorry, I had to. I know. Linda pulled back, her eyes wet. But if you'd gotten hurt because of me, I never would have forgiven myself. You were wearing a wire the whole time. Linda pulled a small device from her apron. Grim asked me to 3 days ago, said we needed evidence, said the only way to put Travis away for good was to let him incriminate himself. She laughed shakily. I've never been so terrified in my life. Grim appeared beside them. You did good, both of you. He could have killed her, Claire said. He could have tried. Grim's expression was grim, but he never would have made it 2 steps. We had snipers on every rooftop. The second he moved wrong, he was done. Claire's legs finally gave out. She sat down hard on the diner steps, her whole body shaking with delayed shock. This is really over. The arrest part is, Sheriff Bradley said, walking over. But there's still a trial you'll have to testify on. I know, and he'll probably make bail in a few days. Claire's heart stopped. What? Assault charges aren't murder. Judge will likely set bail at $50,000. Travis has family money. He'll be out by the end of the week. So this was all for nothing. Not nothing, Sarah Martinez said, appearing from somewhere. We have him on tape, threatening violence, admitting to abuse, violating a restraining order. Even if he makes bail, he's looking at serious prison time. But he'll be out there, free to violate his bail conditions and go right back to jail, Sarah said firmly. And we'll be watching. The police will be watching. Every person in this town will be watching. He won't be able to sneeze without someone documenting it. Claire wanted to believe her, wanted to feel safe. But Travis had always found ways around the rules before. Grim crouched down beside her. Look at me. She did. He comes near you, we'll know. He tries to contact you, we'll know. He even thinks about you wrong, we'll know. His voice was hard as iron. You're not alone in this anymore. You understand? Claire nodded, not trusting her voice. The bikers started their engines and the sound rolled across the desert like thunder. Grim stood up, offered Claire his hand and pulled her to her feet. Come on, he said. Let's get you back to the shelter. But when they pulled up to the building, news vans were everywhere. Reporters with cameras and microphones all shouting questions at once. Claire, is it true you were held captive for 3 years? Did the Hells Angels really organize a rescue operation? What do you want to say to other domestic violence survivors? Claire shrank back against Grim. I can't do this. Then don't. Grim revved his engine and took off, leaving the reporters in the dust. They rode for an hour through empty desert, and when he finally stopped, they were at a roadside overlook with nothing around them but sand and ska and silence. Sorry, he said. Figured you needed a break from people. Claire climbed off the bike, her legs stiff. Thank you. For what? Everything, the diner, the lawyers, the shelter, believing me when nobody else would. Grim was quiet for a long moment. You know what the worst part was? After Emily died, Claire shook her head. Everyone said they didn't know. Her friends, her neighbors, her co-workers. They all claimed they had no idea her husband was hurting her. His voice was bitter. But they did know. They saw the bruises, heard the fights. They just didn't want to get involved. That's not your fault. Isn't it? I was her big brother. I should have protected her. You were in Afghanistan. I was hiding. Grim turned to look at her. I joined the Marines to get away from our hometown, from our drunk father and our broken family, and all the things I didn't want to deal with. And while I was gone, Emily married a monster because she thought that's what love looked like. You couldn't have known. I should have. His hands clenched. I should have called more, visited more, paid attention instead of pretending everything was fine. Claire understood then why he'd brought 200 bikers to save a stranger, why he'd risked everything for someone he didn't know, why he couldn't let go until she was safe. She'd be proud of you, Claire said quietly, for what you did, for what you're still doing. Grim's jaw worked. I hope so. They stood there in the desert silence, 2 broken people trying to figure out how to rebuild. Claire's phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Reporters are gone. Safe to come back now. Also, you have a visitor. Who? You'll see. When they got back to the shelter, a woman was waiting in the common room. Mid-30s with dark hair and kind eyes, and a scar on her throat that looked like someone had tried to kill her. Hi, the woman said. My name is Michelle. I'm one of the women who came forward against Travis. Claire's breath caught. He hurt you too. 3 years ago, before you. Michelle's smile was sad. I left town after. Changed my name. Started over. But when I saw the news, I knew I had to come back. Had to testify. Why? Because I spent 3 years thinking I was the only one. Thinking it was my fault. Thinking if I'd just been better, stronger, smarter, he wouldn't have hurt me. Michelle's eyes filled with tears. But it was never about us. It was always about him. And I needed you to know that. Another woman appeared in the doorway. Then another. Then 2 more, all with similar stories, all with similar scars. All victims of Travis Cole's carefully controlled rage. There are 7 of us, Michelle said. 7 women who've agreed to testify. 7 chances to make sure he never hurts anyone again. Claire looked at them, these strangers who were somehow sisters, and felt something shift inside her chest. She wasn't alone. She'd never been alone. She'd just been convinced she was. Thank you, she whispered. No, Michelle said. Thank you for being brave enough to leave, for pressing charges, for making it safe for the rest of us to speak up. That night, the 7 women sat in a circle and shared their stories. Different details, same nightmare. And with each story, Claire felt her shame dissolve a little more. She wasn't weak. She wasn't broken. She was a survivor. They all were. 3 days later, Travis made bail. Claire got the call at 6 a.m. Her hands went numb holding the phone. He's out, Sarah said. But there are conditions. Ankle monitor. Can't leave the county. Can't contact you or any of the other victims. Violates any of that, he goes right back to jail. What if he doesn't care about the conditions? Then he's stupid and we'll catch him. But that didn't make Claire feel safer. She knew Travis, knew how he thought, knew he'd find a way to get to her if he wanted to badly enough. Grimm showed up an hour later with a different kind of solution. Pack your things, he said. What? You're coming with me. To Montana. We've got a chapter up there. Safe house. No one knows about it except us. I can't just leave. The trial is 3 months away. You can come back for it. Grimm's expression was serious. But staying here while he's out on bail, that's suicide. I have therapy, support groups. My job application at the grocery store will still be there when you get back. He moved closer. Claire, he's going to try something. You know he is, and I'm not letting you be here when he does. Rebecca appeared in the doorway. He's right, I've seen this before. The most dangerous time for a victim is right after the abuser's been arrested. That's when they have nothing left to lose. So I just run. You survive, Rebecca said. And then you come back and testify and put him away. But first you survive. Claire looked between them, at Grimm's determination, at Rebecca's concern, at the other women who were nodding in agreement. How long? She asked. As long as it takes. Claire thought about Travis out there somewhere, angry and desperate and capable of anything. Thought about looking over her shoulder for 3 months, waiting for him to appear. Okay, she said, I'll go. They left that night, Claire on the back of Grimm's motorcycle heading north through darkness toward a future she couldn't imagine. Behind them, Travis sat in his apartment, staring at the ankle monitor on his leg and planning his next move. He'd lost control of Claire, lost his job, lost his reputation, lost everything that mattered. But he still had one thing left, rage, and he was going to use it. The motorcycle roared through the night, and Claire held on tight, wondering if she'd ever stop running, wondering if she'd ever feel safe again, wondering what it would take to finally be free. She didn't know that in 3 months she'd stand in a courtroom and watch Travis be sentenced to 15 years. Didn't know that she'd start a nonprofit for domestic violence survivors. Didn't know that Grimm would become one of her closest friends. Didn't know that the 7 women would become a family. Didn't know that the story of the bikers who saved a waitress would inspire hundreds of other survivors to leave. All she knew was that right now, in this moment, she was alive. And sometimes that was enough. Montana was colder than Claire expected. She'd been at the safe house for 6 weeks when the call came. Travis had violated his bail conditions. He'd cut off his ankle monitor and disappeared. "We don't know where he is," Sheriff Bradley said over the phone. "He could be anywhere." Claire's hands went numb. "He's coming for me." "We don't know that." "I do." She looked out the window at the snow-covered mountains. "He won't stop until he finds me." Grim was in the room before she even hung up. "What happened?" "He's gone. Cut his monitor. They can't find him." "Then we move you again." "Where he found me once, he'll find me again." Claire's voice was hollow. "He always finds me." "Not this time." Grim pulled out his phone, made 3 calls in rapid succession. Within an hour, 20 bikers surrounded the safe house like a human fortress. But Claire couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't enough, that nothing would ever be enough. 2 days later, a package arrived at the safe house. No return address, just Claire's name written in handwriting she'd recognize anywhere. "Don't open it," Grim said immediately. But Claire was already tearing it open. Inside was a single photograph. Claire and Travis on their first date, smiling at the camera, looking like people who had their whole lives ahead of them. On the back, written in Travis's handwriting, "I'm coming home, baby. Wait for me." Claire dropped the photo like it was on fire. "He knows where I am." "That's impossible. Nobody knows about this place except—" Grim stopped, his face going hard. "Except the shelter network." "You think someone told him?" "I think he's been planning this longer than we thought." Grim grabbed the package, examining the postmark. This was mailed from Black Ridge 4 days ago, before he cut his monitor. So he planned this. He knew exactly what he was doing. "Yeah." Grim's jaw clenched. "And he wanted us to know." The next week was a nightmare of waiting. Every car that passed made Claire jump. Every sound outside sent her heart racing. The bikers maintained their watch, but Claire could see the strain on their faces. They had lives, families, jobs. They couldn't guard her forever. "I need to go back," Claire said one morning. Grim looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "Absolutely not. I can't keep hiding. I can't keep letting him control my life from the shadows." "Going back isn't brave, it's suicide." "Then what do you suggest that I stay here forever? Let him win." "I suggest you stay alive." Grim's voice was hard. "That's all that matters." But Claire was done being afraid. Done letting Travis dictate her choices. Done being a victim. She called Sarah Martinez. "I want to go back for the trial early. I want to give my deposition now instead of waiting." "Claire, that's not safe with Travis." "I don't care about safe anymore. I care about ending this." Claire's voice didn't shake. "Set it up. I'm coming back." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "Okay, but we're doing this my way. With protection, with precautions, with every possible safety measure in place." "Fine." "And Claire, if he shows up, he will show up. That's the point." The flight back to Arizona felt like flying toward a hurricane. Grim insisted on coming with her, along with 15 other bikers who'd become her unofficial security detail. "You're really doing this," Grim said as they landed. "I really am. You know he's going to try something." "I'm counting on it." The deposition was scheduled at the courthouse with armed guards at every entrance. Claire walked through the metal detectors, feeling like she was walking to her own execution. Sarah met her in the hallway. "You ready?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." The deposition room was small, sterile, with a camera recording everything. Claire sat across from Travis's lawyer, a slick man in an expensive suit who looked at her like she was lying about everything. "Ms. Bennett," he started, "you claim my client abused you for 3 years, yet you never filed a police report, never sought medical attention, never told anyone. Why should we believe you now?" Claire met his eyes. "Because I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Afraid he'd kill me if I told, like he promised he would." "You have proof of these threats." "I have bruises, scars, 7 other women with the same story." Claire's voice was steady. "How much proof do you need?" The lawyer's expression didn't change. "My client maintains that any injuries you sustained were accidental, that you're fabricating this story for attention. Your client is a liar." "That's a serious accusation." "It's the truth." The deposition lasted 4 hours. Every painful detail, every incident, every lie Travis had told her, and she'd believed. By the end, Claire was wrung out and shaking, but she told her story. All of it. When she walked out of the courthouse, news crews were everywhere. Apparently, the story of the runaway abuser and the brave victim had gone national. Claire, how does it feel to face your abuser in court? Are you afraid Travis will find you? What do you want to say to other survivors? Claire stopped, looked at the cameras, at the reporters waiting for her to break down or hide or run. I want to say that leaving is the hardest thing you'll ever do, she said, and the bravest, and that you don't have to do it alone. She paused. There are people who will help you, who will believe you, who will stand between you and the person hurting you. You just have to be brave enough to ask. The clip went viral within hours. Claire's face was everywhere. Her story was everywhere. And somewhere out there, Travis was watching. That night, Claire stayed at a hotel under a fake name with Grim in the room next door and two bikers stationed in the hallway. She should have felt safe. Instead, she felt like prey waiting for the predator to strike. At 3 a.m., her phone rang, unknown number. She answered without thinking. Hello, Claire. Travis's voice was calm, too calm. You looked beautiful on TV today. Claire's blood turned to ice. How did you get this number? I have my ways, just like I have ways of getting to you, no matter how many bikers you surround yourself with. If you come near me, you'll call the police. They couldn't protect you before. What makes you think they can now? He laughed softly. I'm going to find you, Claire. And when I do, we're going to have a long talk about loyalty. The line went dead. Claire's hands were shaking so hard she couldn't hold the phone. She stumbled to Grim's room and pounded on the door. He answered immediately, took one look at her face and pulled her inside. What happened? He called. He knows where I am. He's coming. Grim's expression went deadly. How long ago? Just now, 2 minutes maybe. Could you hear anything in the background? Traffic people, anything that might tell us where he was calling from? Claire closed her eyes, trying to remember. Music, faint, country music maybe? Grim was already on his phone. Run every bar within a 10-mile radius. Country music. Someone matching Travis Cole's description. He listened, then his face went white. How long ago, Jesus Christ? He grabbed Claire's arm. We're leaving. Now. What's happening? He was spotted at a bar 6 blocks from here, 20 minutes ago. Grim was throwing clothes into a bag. He's close, Claire. Too close. They ran down the back stairs, avoiding the bikers in the hallway who were supposed to be protecting her. Grim's motorcycle was parked in the alley, and Claire climbed on behind him without question. They'd made it 3 blocks when headlights appeared behind them. Following too close. Moving too fast. Hold on, Grim said and gunned the engine. The chase lasted 15 minutes through empty streets. The car stayed with them, matching every turn, getting closer with every block. Claire's arms were wrapped so tight around Grim's waist she could barely breathe. Who is that? She shouted over the wind. I don't know, but we're about to find out. Grim took a hard right into a construction site, killing the engine headlights. They crouched behind a pile of concrete barriers, watching as the car cruised past slowly. Claire's heart stopped when she saw the driver. It wasn't Travis. It was one of Travis's friends from the diner. Derek, who'd always laughed at Travis's jokes about keeping women in line. He sent someone else, Claire whispered. He's not even doing this himself. Coward, Grim muttered. Always are. They waited until Derek's car disappeared, then rode in the opposite direction. But Claire knew this was just the beginning. Travis wouldn't stop. He'd keep sending people, keep hunting her, keep making her life a nightmare until one of them was dead. I can't do this anymore, she said when they finally stopped at a different hotel across town. Can't do what? Run, hide, live in fear. Claire looked at him. I need to end this, for real, permanently. The trial is 3 months away. He'll find me before then, or he'll hurt someone I care about trying. She took a breath. I need to draw him out, face him, end this on my terms. Grim stared at her. You want to use yourself as bait? Yes. That's the worst idea I've ever heard. It's the only idea that works. Claire's voice was firm. He wants me, so let's give him what he wants, with every possible advantage on our side. He'll kill you. Not if you're there. Not if we plan this right. Claire met his eyes. I trust you. Do you trust me? Grim was quiet for a long time. Then he pulled out his phone. I'm going to regret this. It took 3 days to set up. Claire would return to Black Ridge, to the diner, to the exact place this had all started. She'd go alone, or appear to go alone, and she'd wait for Travis to make his move. Sarah thought it was insane. Rebecca begged her not to, but the other 6 women who had survived Travis understood. Sometimes you have to face the monster to stop being afraid of it, Michelle said. The morning Claire returned to Black Ridge, the town was eerily quiet. Word had spread that she was coming back, that Travis was on the run, that something big was about to happen. Linda had tears in her eyes when Claire walked through the diner door. You shouldn't be here. I know, but I am. He's going to come for you. I know that too. Claire put on her old apron, poured coffee, took orders, pretended everything was normal while her heart hammered against her ribs and every instinct screamed at her to run. The bikers were hidden, Grim in the kitchen, others in unmarked cars outside, snipers on rooftops, police on standby. Everyone waiting for Travis to make his move. He didn't come that day, or the next, or the day after that. Maybe he's not as stupid as we thought, Grim said on the 4th day. But Claire knew better. He's planning, making sure he gets it right. He only gets one shot at this. She was right. On the 5th day at closing time, when Claire was alone in the diner wiping down tables, the door opened. Travis stood in the doorway looking nothing like the man she'd once loved. His face was gaunt, his eyes were wild, and he was holding a gun. Hello, Claire, he said. Claire's hands stopped moving. Hello, Travis. You made quite the spectacle of yourself on the news, painting me as some kind of monster. I told the truth. Your version of it. He walked closer, and Claire fought every instinct to back away. You humiliated me, destroyed my life, turned everyone against me. For what? Because I loved you too much. You didn't love me, you owned me. There's a difference. I gave you everything. You gave me fear and pain and 3 years of hell. Claire's voice didn't shake. But I'm taking my life back now, and you can't stop me. Travis raised the gun. Can't I? The kitchen door burst open. Grim stepped out, his own weapon trained on Travis. Put it down. Travis laughed. The biker, of course. You think you're her hero. I think I'm the guy who's not going to let you hurt her again. You don't understand. She needs me. She'll always need me. No, Claire said quietly. I never needed you. I just needed to be brave enough to leave. Travis's hand shook on the gun. You're nothing without me. I'm alive without you. That's everything. For a moment, Travis looked lost, like he couldn't understand how the world had shifted beneath him, how the girl he'd controlled for 3 years was standing here defiant and unafraid. Then his expression hardened. If I can't have you... He never finished the sentence. Grim's shot was faster. Clean, surgical. The gun flew from Travis's hand and he collapsed screaming, clutching his shoulder. Police flooded the diner from every entrance. Travis was on the ground bleeding, crying, screaming that it wasn't fair that Claire had ruined everything, that this was all her fault. But Claire just stood there watching him be dragged away in handcuffs and felt absolutely nothing. No relief, no joy, no satisfaction. Just emptiness where fear used to live. You okay? Grim asked. I don't know. Claire looked at him. Is it really over? Yeah, it's really over. And somehow, impossibly, it was. The trial happened 3 months later. Travis pled guilty to avoid the death penalty, got 15 years with no possibility of parole. 7 women testified about his abuse. The evidence was overwhelming. Claire stood in the courtroom and watched him be led away, and this time she felt relief. She started her nonprofit 6 months after that, called it Emily's House after Grim's sister. It became a network of safe houses, legal aid, and support for domestic violence survivors across 3 states. The 7 women became her board of directors, her family, her proof that survival was possible. Grim and his brothers became permanent security volunteers, teaching self-defense classes, escorting women to court, showing up when other people looked away. A year after it all started, Black Ridge held its first domestic violence awareness rally. Thousands came, survivors, supporters, people who'd stayed silent but were ready to speak. And when the sound of motorcycles echoed across the desert that day, people didn't run. They cheered. Claire stood on the stage looking at the crowd, at the banners, at the faces of women who'd found the courage to leave because she'd shown them it was possible. A year ago, she said into the microphone, I was convinced I'd die in that diner, that Travis would kill me, and everyone would say they never saw it coming. She paused. But a stranger asked me a simple question, who hurt you? And that question changed everything. She found Grim in the crowd. He nodded at her. I want you to know that you don't have to be perfect to deserve help. You don't have to have bruises people can see. You don't have to hit rock bottom before someone cares. Her voice strengthened. If you're hurting, tell someone. If someone you know is hurting, don't look away. Because silence protects abusers, but speaking up saves lives. The crowd erupted in applause. Claire stepped off the stage and walked straight to Grim. Thank you, she said, for everything. You did this, not me. We did this, all of us. That night, as motorcycles lined up to ride out of Black Ridge engines rumbling like thunder, Claire stood beside Linda and watched them go. You know what's funny, Linda said. What? A year ago, those bikes terrified this whole town. Now they sound like hope. Claire smiled. Yeah, they really do. She pulled out her phone and looked at the message that had come in an hour ago from a woman in California who'd seen her speech online. I left today because of you. I'm safe now. Thank you for showing me it was possible. Claire saved the message with all the others, hundreds of them now, proof that speaking up mattered, that surviving mattered, that one woman's courage could ripple out and save others. Travis was in prison. Emily's house was growing, the 7 women were thriving, and Claire was finally truly free. She looked up at the desert sky where the sun was setting in shades of gold and red, and thought about the girl she'd been a year ago, terrified, broken, convinced she'd never escape. That girl was gone now. In her place was someone stronger, braver, someone who'd looked fear in the face and refused to blink. Sometimes heroes didn't wear uniforms or capes. Sometimes they wore leather and rode motorcycles and showed up when everyone else looked away. Sometimes they were waitresses who found the courage to say enough. Sometimes they were women who'd survived and decided to help others do the same. And sometimes the roar of engines didn't mean danger was coming. Sometimes it meant hope had arrived.